giving us an introduction into IBM Bluemix. I'm not sure if anybody's played around with Bluemix yet. Has anybody had a chance to look at it yet?
I registered.
You registered? That's as far as they got. But just, I just want to get a bit of a feel. I mean, who has been using online cloud services from this cloud? I mean, some of us, I know, use what's this, EC2. I know some of the guys in my group are also using DigitalOcean. Who's using what here? Anybody else? Tim, something.
Well, we all use cloud to some extent. We use Dropbox, we use Firefox,
And I just wanted to get a feel for where is it going. I mean, because EC2 has been around for a while now. The concept of a platform as a service has been around for a while now. I mean, it hasn't really changed much, or has it? I mean, one of our ex-team members, your guys' old boss, works for Amazon now, right? And I was chatting to him, trying to understand what is it that they're going towards. And the feeling that I got from him was that it's becoming, I think he called it infrastructure as an API. That's what Amazon is working towards. They want to treat everything that you do in terms of working with or interacting with the cloud as an API. It's going to be developer friendly. It's got to be developer friendly. At the moment you log into a website, you specify what sort of CPU, RAM, storage you require. A few years ago, you had the concept of templates, so you click a box if you want Ubuntu. More recently, last year, the year before, you'd pick what application platform you want, whether you want JBoss or Tomcat or even a WordPress, for example. But they want to bring it closer to the developer. You don't even need to go to the website anymore. You do everything you require from API calls. You build your provisioning of the server into your code. And that's where it seems to be moving. I haven't played around enough with Bluemix. I'm hoping to get understanding where IBM is going with this. Asked IBM to just think about giving us a little introduction to artificial intelligence also. It's not going to happen today, but maybe another follow-up session. There's a lot of work being done currently. A lot of work being done over the last 10 years, but now Google open sourced their natural language processing API last night, or the project last night. Everybody's releasing bots. I mean, I think as IBM that it is Microsoft network of whatever. So I need you guys to think about that, and hopefully the next TGIF we have will be around in the AI stuff. I know Lucy's particularly interested in that stuff. So any further ado, I'm going to leave it to you.
Yusuf, on your artificial intelligence, people may have heard about Watson. Right?
Yes.
So what would be good if people are on LinkedIn and they follow IBM?
Okay.
Every other day, I think actually every day that I'm on LinkedIn, there's a new initiative of Watson, a partnership with another company, and how we've introduced artificial intelligence or cognitive into that kind of industry. So it gives us what can be done and to get those ideas on what is happening.
In fact, I think the last post I saw was day before yesterday. They were talking about using Watson for security and
security. Yes, that's right. That's right. So it's in healthcare, it's in automotive, it's in every industry you can think of.
One of the, is it Elon Musk, or one of the companies that are doing driverless cars is using Watson. I can't remember which one though.
Yeah, so
no.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I believe you can register to access Watson.
That's
right?
yes.
API.
And anyone can access.
Well, Watson is included, and it will take us.
We'll get a bit of a taste.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. So, leave it with you.
Cool.
Thanks. So, thanks for the opportunity to demonstrate. I think you're going to platform.
that's almost like a challenge when you tell audiences that when you tell them you're going to be blown, it's like, I'm not going to be blown away. You're going to hold on to it. But just the level set on the cloud platforms. Well, let me first start by introducing myself. My name is Indran. I work for a division in IBM called Ecosystem Development. And really what we do is work with startups, developers, entrepreneurs, ISVs that build applications and systems around IBM products and services. I've also got a fancy title. I'm an IBM Master Inventor. I could have made that up, but it sounds cool when you do it in front of people and they can't check on you. But my background is I worked in IBM South Africa for about 10 years. IBM US, I moved there for about 14. Austin, Texas. And I'm back in South Africa for the last 3 years. So I've worked with lots of startups around the globe, India, China, Western Europe, and so on. And we've seen the developer landscape change. I remember times when we talk about SOA and Java and stuff like that. So things have changed, but in a way they've remained the same. So today I just want to talk about Bluemix and the platform and why we built the platform and why it's important to IBM. We know that the landscape is changing, and we see developers as the new kingmakers. First, we would be able to go to the CIO and him to buy IBM kit, and he would buy it because we were a safe bet. But today we know that there are lots of different types of applications coming out, and those applications don't necessarily come out of enterprises. It's very, very difficult for enterprises to innovate. It's much easier for a company that have lots of knowledge around to be able to innovate and move quickly. And we'll talk a little bit about why it is. So the idea that enterprises have an advantage over individual innovators is gone. Right? Before you had an advantage because, and I'm talking about you, MTN, as a company, because you had infrastructure that maybe other individuals did not have access to. So they were at a disadvantage. Today, any two guys have access to as much computing power as you have. They can spin it up quicker, they can deploy it quicker in their virtual data centers on the cloud than you can within an enterprise. Typical enterprises take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to install a new server, set it up, get a new application in. And I'll show you in a few minutes how you can get an app up in 10 minutes. Sample app up in. We see Bluemix is working for disruptors. So those guys that are looking to change the industry completely, Bluemix is ideal. It allows you to rapidly generate application or create applications and disrupt an industry and iterate very quickly. And it's very different from the other platforms you see out there. Let's level set on this whole cloud picture, right? We have infrastructure as a service, and infrastructure as a service, I commonly think of that as your house, right? When you buy infrastructure as a service, it's like buying a house. You sow the lawn. They will set up a view, but they'll put down Ubuntu or Linux or Windows or whatever else you want. They'll put on a database. They'll even put on WordPress for you. But then you've got to maintain it, like your house. If the light bulb goes out, if the lawn gets long, you've got to go and you've got to mow it, and you've got to change the light bulb, and you've got to do all of that. That's infrastructure as a service, right? You buy it, you use it, you manage it. The next one is platform as a service, and this is where Bluemix fits in. Is that Bluemix is like an apartment complex. When you move into Bluemix, you bring your clothing, you bring your furniture, and we manage the apartment complex for you. So everything from the networking all the way up through the operating system, all the way through up to the middleware, we will manage for you. IBM is now your landlord. And if anything goes wrong with anything other than your applications and your data, we will fix it. Right? So that's platform as a service. All we want you to do is bring your data and run what you believe to be the important part of your business, because you are not in the infrastructure business. You are not in the operating system. You are not in the hardware business. We as the cloud vendor will provide you with that. Competitors, lots of them play in the infrastructure as a service space. They will rent you virtual hardware wherever you want. And we play in that space too. We have a company called SoftLayer that we purchased in Dallas, Texas, and they've got data centers throughout the world. Of the top 500 websites out there, most of them run on SoftLayer infrastructure. But that's pure infrastructure as a service. You buy a virtual machine, we'll manage it for you. SoftLayer's got lots of different value-added features like We've got what we call our triple network architecture. The network that you go and manage your servers is different to the network that your customers go into your servers is different to the network that the servers talk to each other, so that you're not fighting for bandwidth between players. Lots of other cool features, but we're not here to talk about soft layer. But Bluemix is really built on top of soft layer, and we run Bluemix on a stack called Cloud Foundry, which is open source. So think of Cloud Foundry as the operating system for the cloud. Other vendors might have their own operating systems that are proprietary. We won't mention names, but we're using an open source operating system for the cloud called Cloud Foundry. And what it'll do is it helps us do all the provisioning of all the middleware, managing all the instances. And we'll go through a little of what it looks like. So in that space, we do have competitors. There are other companies that use Cloud Foundry as a basis, like Heroku. And we've got, these guys are good, everyone's good, but it's really about the system together to go from what existing applications to have to new business value applications, right? So I don't want this to be one way. If you guys disagree with me, please throw something at me. I can duck and dive. We want this to be interactive so that if you have things that you disagree or you want to add to or remove from, just shout out. Okay. So everyone okay with the cloud analogy? So in the final cloud analogy, it's really software as a service, which we talked about. Everyone uses Dropbox. Everyone uses Gmail or Yahoo Mail or Microsoft Mail. That is software as a service. And we usually, to complete the analogy, that's you go in, you use it, you come down the next day, hopefully you pay before you leave, and then you're gone. Right? Some rooms are free, but you don't really have to do anything. You just use the service, Facebook, WhatsApp. Those are all cloud applications. They're software as a service. Once you've built your application and you're running it on infrastructure as a service, or you're running it as platform as a service, comes software as a service. Typical tree, there's lots of new acronyms coming out of as a service at the end. So you're going to do XaaS, data as a service, or something else as a service. Or it's the way our industry is changing. So any questions up to this point? Any contention? Anything?
How do you get around security issues? Because companies in South Africa are so suspicious. They want to put their stuff on the cloud. If they think there's the slightest chance of some Nigerian getting in.
Yeah, I went to Nigeria once and I felt like I know everybody there because I at least got one email from somebody in the country. No, but security is an issue. So there's two levels of security, right? The one level of security is how do we protect the infrastructure, the virtual machines and all the other pieces. The other piece is once you put an application on that infrastructure, there's the application level security. So there's two levels of security. Our data centers comply with a whole host of security compliance criteria, and they certify to that level. Now, once you put your application on there, it's on the cloud. So everyone's going to be able to access it. It's going to be up to you to be able to secure your app. Done in Bluemix is we also have scanning tools. They'll scan through your code if you want to and tell you where vulnerabilities might exist. So that's an additional feature of being able to use something like this.
Just a mindset.
Yeah. So if you look at cloud, your ability to be able to secure applications in the past, the fact that applications were contained within an intranet meant that people outside just couldn't get to your application. So they really didn't. That security was just because by virtue of the fact that it was only deployed in your infrastructure. Today with Bluemix, we have a number of deployment models. This idea of private cloud and hybrid, let's explore that further, right? We know that most enterprises will never put everything on the cloud. They will have something internal, they'll have something external, they have something that's mixed. So that's what we call a hybrid cloud. Well, of what value is hybrid cloud if the stuff that you're doing externally is going to be managed by IBM, and then you're going to have another group of people managing stuff internally, and you've got these groups of people that work on different things. The value proposition that IBM brings is that our hybrid cloud value proposition is that we build on the same architecture. We use open source, so if you've got somebody that's trained in Cloud Foundry, the same way you manage an application in the public cloud is going to be exactly the same way you manage your application in your private cloud. So that guy doesn't learn new skills. And if you decide to move an application from your private to your public cloud, you don't learn new things. You use the same set of tools that you would use to be able to manage across the cloud. So this idea of hybrid cloud gives you this ability to do everything in the same way across multiple vendors, across multiple platforms. So in terms of security, when you put an application in your private enterprise, you're securing it. So you won't have, you'll have all your copy compliance, and you won't have all the Nigerians are saying, I don't want some South African to get it, right? Because we're sure we just notorious.
And Poppy, are we starting to anticipate what the challenges are going to be with Poppy?
Yeah.
The data.
So when we look at Poppy regulations, the South African, actually we've got better data privacy regulations in most countries around the world, right? I mean, security is our thing. We probably have more burglar bars in South Africa than any other country in the world also. But around Poppy, the idea is that the South African law states that your data has to be protected by governance or by rules that are equal to or better than South African rules, right? So you can't put data outside of South Africa. The first question is you can't put data outside of South Africa as long as that country that you're putting it in has equal to or better than South African. So we cannot put it in the US, right? Because the US has something called the Patriot Act, which allows the government to go and look at everything and anything they want to, right? So we can't put it in Amsterdam. So we've got data centers in those locations that allow you to comply with Poppy. South African enterprises are still wary about putting their customer data outside of South African borders. I think that's more a mindset. It's not because of Poppy. But there are, those concerns can be alleviated. We are going to, I don't know if you guys heard that announcement, we are putting on a cloud managed service environment in South Africa.
Cape Town or Germany?
It's in with Vodacom and team. So it's at Vodacom's data center in Roslyn. Any other questions? So how many of you guys are developers in the room?
Terrible people. I wouldn't deal with them.
So about 5 or 6 infrastructure.
Our developers are every
The same. About 5 as well.
5 or
6, 7.
And the rest of the people telling the developers and infrastructure what to do.
Pretty much.
So we said that the idea around Bluemix is really around how do we innovate. So if we have an idea as a developer, or I have an idea, I want to build this app, how do I make sure that I get this quickly, and how can I build an app? So if you think about, I want to build a mobile app that tells me what everyone's favorite music in the room is, right? Maybe it's not going to make millions of rands, but let's say I just wanted to build the app. Anyone estimate, rough estimate of how long it's going to take me?
That's me.
How long is it going to take you? How long do you think it's going to take you to build the app? Deploy it. You've got infrastructure people. You're going to build, set up your machine, do all the things. How long do you think it should take? Well, let's do the example that we're going to show you just now, a chat application. I'm going to build a chat application that's going to allow 5 or 6 people in an enterprise to chat. How long do you think it's going to take? I'm going to show you a demo that's going to say 10 minutes. So don't say anything close to 10 minutes. In your real life experience, how long would you think it's going to take?
IBM always tells us 6 months.
6 minutes. That's because we're charging by the hour. Anyone else? You got apps and stuff, the developers in the room. How long should it take you to set up your environment, deploy an application, do a sample, quick run?
It's just that I'm probably shy of a month.
A month. Right. So at least a month build out. So when we looked at how we build Bluemix and what's important to developers in Bluemix, we really built it around that paradigm as to how do you get apps to users really, really quickly. I'm not going to go through all the slides because I really want to get you to feel what Bluemix feels like so you can see what I do. And by the end of the day, you must be able to go home and call your son and say, come, let me show you how I can build a chat application in 10 minutes and, wow them. So you can do exactly what I do. You register for Bluemix and you go on site. You've got a 30-day free registration on Bluemix, and it's based on your email address. Beyond the 30 days, we give you what we call 365 gigabyte hours of free Bluemix usage per month. And we'll talk about, if you have questions as to what that really means. So the idea is you've got a spec for an application. Somebody says, I want to build this app. How do you get it to the right, to get that show to what, make sure that that's really what he understands about the application. So when we look at the old way of doing applications, we gathered system requirements and we built, we spec'd out an application and then we built a sample of the application and then we took it to the user, right? And those were really built around what we call systems of record. We collected lots of information for your MTN. You've got subscribing, you've got their name, their ID number, how many SIM cards or their SIM card numbers. Those are called systems of records. They keep records of everything that subscriber base is about. The new set of applications, those record systems, we really know how to build them. Everybody knows how to build them. Databases, the technologies have been built around them, but we've gotten to the point where if you change that application a little bit, it doesn't give you a lot of value. But we need those systems of record. The new systems that we use of interaction, right, where we interacting, you're allowing users within the system of record to interact. I'll give you an example. In the States, there's a weekend in the States that's called Small Business Saturday. And on Small Business Saturday, if you take your American Express card and you spend it at a small business, and you spend those, American Express will give you your money back, right, for up to $25. So you go to like a small cafe, you run your American Express card, you pay $10. Within 2 or 3 days, American Express will, they'll give you your $10 back. Now, in that case, you really want all these small businesses to be able to talk to each other, and you want them to be able to talk to the MX app maybe on your phone to be able to tell you, you're within 100 yards. He sells sandwich maybe because today the sandwich is free. Now, in those cases, you're getting your subscriber base and you're getting your vendors to work together. There's a whole new paradigm because American Express is doing it for 2 reasons. First of all, they want you to use your MX card. And second of all, they want you to be introduced to all these new vendors that are in your vicinity that you might not have gone to before. And those vendors like the fact that they're getting new customers. So the whole value proposition is amazing, even though it's costing them $25 per person. It's cheaper than any other marketing. Right? So it's a new app that we're going to build. So those types of apps, we're talking about systems of interaction. And that iteration, when you build those apps, you have to be really, really quick. You don't take months and months and months. When American Airlines introduced this idea of frequent flyer miles, think of it, it was a value proposition. All of their customers now wanted frequent flyer miles because they could get free tickets. But now every other airline started thinking, now this is a cool idea to do. If American Airlines took 6 months to build it, and maybe some other airline took a month to build it, they'd be first to market and they would be seen as, the innovators. Do this quickly. So I'm going to jump out of the presentation and take you into Bluemix and just give you a tour of Bluemix so that you can see how we make this idea of getting it to the customer quicker, right? So this is Bluemix, and this is the first page that you'll see when you go to bluemix.net. You've got a whole bunch of big buttons and these new website templates, but on the top end here, you'll be able to log in and register. And because I'm already registered and logged in, it tells me who I am. Which server I'm deployed on. I think server, there's one, the US South, which is probably Dallas, Sydney, the United Kingdom. And I can create organizations. An organization is, in this case, I'm my own organization, but me and Shreyesh or Indran or a few of us wanted to work together, I could create an organization and have 3 or 4 of us work together, so we'd be able to share a space on Bluemix. But let's go quickly into the dashboard. And we talked about building that application in a few minutes. So if you look at the dashboard, now when I'm building an app, in Bluemix, I have a choice about the infrastructure that I want to lay down on Bluemix, right? I can either go and create a virtual server, just like regular infrastructure as a service, and then say, I want a machine with 2 gigs of RAM and 4 CPUs and whatever. That's the old way of doing stuff. In the new way of doing stuff, or the quicker way of doing stuff, is using Cloud Foundry, and you create the app, and the app is going to deploy on infrastructure. And I don't care about the infrastructure because IBM is the landlord, right? So you're going to create an app on Bluemix, and it asks me what type of app I'm creating, a web app or a mobile app. And I'm going to choose a web app. I can choose a web app, and it's going to ask me what runtime do you want to use. Do you want to use Java, Node.js, Go, PHP? But I don't want to use any of those. I'm going to use a boilerplate, right? And the reason I'm going to use a boilerplate is because a boilerplate's got my runtime, it's got my database. So if I'm building a mobile app, it'll put out all the infrastructure I need for a mobile app. It'll put down all the infrastructure that I need for a Java app. If I'm building an Internet of Things app, it'll put down all the infrastructure that I need. So you can create your own boilerplate, so you can use the ones that we provide. So right now, I've got all of these boilerplates that come with Bluemix. And I'm going to things boilerplate. So if I select that boilerplate, it'll tell me what that boilerplate consists of. And because it's your network we run on. It was quicker when I did this at work. I'm just you know, when you give demos, they say the speed of the demo is proportional to the number of people watching. So when you see it go slow, please look at me, don't look at the screen. But if you look at the Node.js application server, and you've got a cloud and database that's going to be provisioned, right? And all I've got to do is to give the app a name. So because I want to prove to you that I didn't fake it, I'm going to ask someone in the audience for a name. What?
Incubation hub.
It's a real name.
What's it called? Oh, just a short name, 3 letters.
Morpheus.
I'm going to do an O1 just in case somebody has already done Morpheus. Okay. So we've got Morpheus. Let's spell it right, MORPHEUS01. And I'm going to tell it to create. Now, in the background, what's happening, machine is being laid down. On that virtual machine, a Node.js server is being provisioned. A cloud and database is being set up. And a sample application is being installed, your equivalent of your hello world. And we're starting everything up. Typically, how long should that take?
At MTN?
6 months before we start procurement. And
Then how long does it take?
So typically, even if you are installing it and setting up on your own and on your desktop and stuff like that, it should take you at least a few hours. And if you've done it with a virtual machine before and you've already got a virtual machine and you're just cloning it, it should take you maybe half an hour.
Are you guys using containers in the background as well? So VMs or VMs plus containers?
So really good question. In this case here, and really the magic behind this is we're using Linux virtualization in the background. What I'm doing is I'm not creating the equivalent of a VMware machine and putting a full operating system down. Linux has the capability within it to create a virtual machine. And within that virtual machine, I can install stuff. So I'm not setting out a complete VM. I'm setting out around a Linux virtual machine. On that Linux virtual machine, I'm installing the software, the Node.js server, and the cloud and database. And all of that is being set up with the sample application. And it should take no longer than 5 minutes for me to be able to get this set up. Right. Bluemix allows you now not only to be able to do this, now you can also use Docker containers, and you can use VMs in the traditional sense of the word. So you have the capacity to do any of those other things because they're all supported within Bluemix, but the one I'm using right now is Linux virtualization. So any other questions? So when you look at it, we talked about how do we get a developer to build an app, stage it, sample it, bring it to his manager or whoever his user case is really quickly. Here's the one case in point where I now don't have to do all of that other stuff that I normally would do. I can just go ahead, deploy a whole set of infrastructure within a few minutes, and now go and start coding my application. So we want to try to get the developer really productive really, really quickly. Okay.
So at the moment, it's creating the database and stuff.
Yeah. So at the moment, right now, it's doing all that stuff that I told you that it's going to be doing. It's staging the application. But if I scroll down on this here, it'll tell you, okay, now, if you want to get started after your applications, to get to your application, this is how you'll get to your application via a browser. What this application is going to do is it's going to launch something called the Node-RED editor. So it's not only putting down an application, it's also, in this case, for this specific template, it's putting down a development environment. So I can go in and modify the application through a graphical user interface. Node-RED is, again, open source. It's not IBM. And right now, my app is already up and running. So if I click on that link, before I click on the link, if you go down, there's a whole set of contextual information. So it's trying to tell you, it's giving you, as a developer, everything you need to know at that point in time. So you don't have to go and read reams and reams and reams of stuff. It's just everything related to that task. So if I click on that morpheus.mybluemix.net, and if anybody has a tablet or a phone or something, and you want to go to the site, it's already live. So you can tell somebody in Cape Town that if you want to have a look at my application, go to morpheus01.mybluemix.net. Now, if I go to Morpheus01, I go to my Node-RED editor. So guys, you can go to it now, but please don't change the editor because I'm going to show you something in the editor. you can view it, but don't change anything. So in the Node-RED editor, it's put down a sample application for me. And what this sample application is about is Node-RED has a flow editor. So you've got a bunch of inputs on your left-hand side, a bunch of outputs, a bunch of functions, a bunch of social media widgets that you can use, a bunch of storage things that you can use, analysis things that you can use. So in this case here, what it's got is it's taking data from a sensor somewhere, some type of sensor, right? Now to make this more real, why don't we just go in and we've got a sample temperature sensor that we've got, that's a simulated sensor. So the sample temperature sensor I'm running here, and I can, with this temperature sensor, I can go in and change the temperature or drop the temperature. It also measures humidity and internal temperature. So it's just a sample sensor. Again, you can access the sensor on the web. It's IBM's Internet of Things temperature sensor. So this temperature sensor can feed stuff up into my Node-RED application. So I'm going to, this temperature sensor also comes with a dashboard, so I can view what's happening to the temperature. But I'm just going to copy the device ID. IBM has this whole Internet of Things platform where you can go and you can connect devices into a platform and it'll collect data, and that data can now be accessed from Bluemix. So let's get back to our dashboard and to our Node-RED dashboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that device ID here. And now what it's doing is it's got that device ID, and that device ID, what it's doing, what this sample app is doing, is it's stripping the temperature out of that device as the device is feeding information. It's stripping the temperature out, and then it's doing this function. If the temperature is more than 40 degrees, do something. If it's less than 40 degrees, do something. So if it's less than 40 degrees, it's saying it's safe. If it's more than 40 degrees, it's saying that it's dangerous, and then it's sending this to this debug dashboard on the right-hand side, right? So there's nothing on the dashboard now because I haven't deployed my application. I just got the application there. I've put in that code for that for the temperature sensor, so it now is collecting information from that temperature sensor. I'm deploying the code. The application is now live, and you can see that it's telling you the temperature sensor is safe and it's running at 17 degrees. So if I go back to the temperature sensor here, and let's take it beyond the 40-degree threshold to see what happens, if it's over 40 degrees. And if we go back to our Node-RED editor and we look and see what happens here.
Which element does the polling? Is it the yellow one or
Sorry, the pink one before here.
This is the one that will collect the data from.
Was that the one that does?
Yeah.
Is it building settings in there? Can you set how often it checks?
Well, what the IoT, the way the IoT platform works is that you have all of these sensors. They feed up into an IoT platform, and then you connect Bluemix into the IoT platform. So Bluemix is you can connect from any application into that platform.
Okay.
We provide that platform also as a service. So if you have a number of services, I know we were talking to MTN about using. You guys have devices out there that you're monitoring, using this platform to be able to quickly build applications to be able to do stuff.
Your IoT device.
Yeah.
What does it? If I've got multiple ones, but there's some sort of a gateway that allows you to connect to the platform.
Yes. So if you've got like let's assume this was a geyser or a fridge. We were monitoring fridges in all the bottle stores, right? And we wanted to, bottle stores is a bad example. Because it doesn't matter if the fridge gets hot, you just wait the next day and the beer gets cold again. But let's say it's a butcher shop, right? Yeah. It's a butcher shop and we're worried about all the meat going bad. So once the temperature goes above a certain level, we want to be notified so that we can send a technician out there to fix the fridge before the meat goes bad. So we can, what we'll do is we'll put a sensor in each one of these. You'll have maybe a GSM card or something that sends information up to an IoT platform. The IoT platform will aggregate this information. We can build apps on it using Bluemix or any other platform to be able to get information off it. We can also create a set of dashboards just so that we can see, because the IoT platform comes with its own dashboard, so you don't have to create one if you don't want to. But if you want to create a custom application that, for example, monitored the fridge, and as soon as the fridge gave up, it sent an alert out to a technician that was closest by to go, and you wanted all of that automated, then you need to build an app. And you're not just sitting and somebody sitting in front of the dashboard.
So, and if you, so your IoT platform will collate from all the different devices.
Yeah.
If you want to do some big data analysis before this step,
yes.
Does that happen on the IoT platform? Is there something else in between?
Yeah, so what we have built on top of the IoT platform, we have the whole Watson Analytics platform. And you can actually go in, if you go to Watson Analytics, like for example, one of the ones I use, I've got a little spreadsheet there of, you can feed this spreadsheet that I've got, it feeds all the Olympic winners from 1990 till now, their ages, the countries they came from, gold medal winners. Then you can ask Watson a question like, I'm 45 years old, what's the chances of me winning a gold medal? And then it'll show you, you got to do rifle shooting, archery. Don't try any of the other stuff, because it's highly improbable that you're going to win.
So if I just summarize that, the full stack, if you want to do IoT plus some big data analysis and an application on top of that, would be IoT and then Watson and Bluemix.
Yes. Yeah. You have the IoT platform that's collecting all the data from the devices. It's collecting all that information, and it also provides you a dashboards and the Watson-based dashboards, and then you've got Bluemix that you can put on top of it to all any bespoke applications that you want to use. Those bespoke applications can talk directly to the IoT platform, or they can talk through the Watson. So if you want to use any of the Watson capabilities.
Just to summarize, and sorry to keep asking around this. So basically, the template that we give covers from the edge to the enterprise layer. If you take the 4 steps of the IoT,
it covers everything. Okay, the breadth of things, and it's all pluggable. You know, of course, we know we've got the best platform, but in case you want to settle the second best for any one of the other ones, we'll work with you.
Could you go down to device? Does IBM play in the device?
No, we don't. We don't play in the device space. But what we've got is we've got samples. So if you go to the IoT platform, we have something called recipes. So there's a whole bunch of people that have got devices, or Arduino devices, or temperature sensors, or all the other things, and you can just go in there and you can create a recipe and then share it with everyone else about how you collect information from your device. Okay, so we've got this sample of an IoT, like we said, 10 minutes, right? But this platform also, what I'm going to do now is just basically delete this whole application.
Like that.
I'm just going to mark it and delete it, right? And the application is gone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to import some code that I found on the web. Right?
Just a quick question there. You just deleted the code. How do I manage things like version increment?
Okay, good question. Let me come back to that in a second, right? So let me just find this.
So Yusuf, maybe the guys can go into that Morpheus for one.
Yeah, I sent it to them.
Oh, you said, okay.
Do you guys have any? So sort of use this, but on a different.
Just give me 1 second.
Do you want the red symbols? Blood red, or are you talking about Bluemix or
Bluemix?
Bluemix?
Okay, so let me just go into this notepad edit and I'll answer your question now. So let's first, you saw me copy a piece of code from the clipboard, right? So I'm going to paste this code in here, and I'm going to say, okay. So now this code for web chat application, right? I'm going to deploy this application, and now it's successfully deployed. So now if I go to the same, this morpheus01.mybluemix.net/chat. So if you can do this now, if anyone has access to the site, if you can go to, and I'll put my name in there and say, so I've gotten code off the web. That's a chat application, a sample chat application. I've gone in and I deployed that code, and I have the chat application up and running. Now, if I'm hoping that I'm not going to sit alone on this platform, right? But at this point here, we've already got somebody here saying hello. You know, we've got other guys on the web. Now, immediately think of it now. If you wanted to build a chat application, we've got hundreds of templates out on the web, hundreds of pieces of code. You will start with this, and you will continue from this point onwards. The idea is not for you to start from scratch, right? So now I built the chat application, deployed it in 10 minutes, and it's up and running, and I can start talking to people about it already. The idea for a developer is, as much as developers like to start with a blank screen, I don't think they really do that. Everyone comes in and they start with something they've done before, right? Even their tools allow them to generate some code. So the idea is, it's not going to write code for you, but it's going to rapidly increase the speed at which you are able to do things, because first of all, we can rapidly deploy the infrastructure. Secondly, we've got access to template code that you can already use. And thirdly, I'm going to show you a shithouse full of services that you can access that you don't have to build yourself, because you're not interested in building them. You're interested in working on your code, right? Now, come back to the versioning. There's two parts to Bluemix. The one part to Bluemix is this platform as a service. We have another part to Bluemix, which is our DevOps services. So any code that you see here, so if I go back to my dashboard and I look at this application, if I look at my application itself, this Morpheus app, I can, in this right-hand corner, it says add Git, right? If I click on this add Git, it'll create a Git repository for me, and it'll have all the code that is in this app in that Git repository. Now my developers can go onto that Git repository, they can modify the code, and they can go on and they can collaborate on that Git repository just as they would normally, right? They can then redeploy their code directly to Bluemix. That Git repository, the IBM version of it, also has an online editor. So you don't even have to install Eclipse or anything on your machine. You can go directly online and use the online version of Eclipse called Orion. So you can go and edit the code online, deploy the code immediately, and make the changes. So if I didn't like the background color of that chat application, I could have changed it. If I didn't like the font, or if I wanted to create a different layout, I could have gone in and changed. So all of that I can do by doing this.
Does it support any other kind of repository other than Git?
Yeah. Yeah, we've got Jazz Hub, which is the GitHub work. So we've got GitHub and Jazz Hub. But you can deploy, you can package the code and then pull it into your own repository. What tools are you using?
We're busy migrating to Git, but currently we're using SQL.
SQL. So we are using Eclipse as a development tool. So from within that allows you to deploy directly to Bluemix. So let's go back into.
Sorry, the SDK question.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the SDK. So Bluemix is your deployment environment, and then you've got an online development environment. The Node-RED editor that I showed, online IoT editor. There's no SDK required because we're not building anything for all the libraries and things that you would need, unless you are modifying the Node-RED code itself and trying to create more containers for yourself. You wouldn't need an SDK.
So, for example, I want to build chat app for a mobile device, and for Android, for example, I need to put a plugin integrated.
Yeah.
You have the Android SDK available there.
Sorry?
You have the Android SDK available on Bluemix.
Oh.
The code that you pasted looked like JSON, is it?
Yes,
JSON.
it's a JSON. So again, if I look at this code, let me just go down on the left-hand side. Like I can put, you remember that temperature application that I showed you? If I didn't want that temperature data to go to this debug panel on the right-hand side, I could have picked, for example, let's see. Like I could have picked that it goes to an email address. I just pick the email address there, and then I configure it and how often it's going to go. Right? I could pick that it goes to Twitter, and it tweets the email. And normally I'll do that in the demo to show that it tweets into my email handle, to my Twitter handle. So I can do lots of things very, very quickly. Remember, guys, the idea here is how can I do things really, really, really quickly? Because the idea is I want to know whether my idea is for real or not. Now, we talked about this whole two-speed development. You know, I'm not going to tell you that you can build Bluemix applications in 3 hours that are enterprise. Of course, once you've created the application, then you're going to harden the application and you're going to work on all the other pieces, but it's going to be a lot quicker than what you used to. Because you're going to be using hardened code already. The templates that we'll provide you at Bluemix that you'll see on developer works or you'll see in tutorials, all are hardened. You know, hundreds of people are using them. It's like open source apps, right? So you'll start with that stack. Now, if you wanted to do that chat application that I just showed you, or the temperature demo sensor, just look for building a chat application in 5 minutes on Bluemix. And it'll come up on Google and it'll give you the steps. So you'll be able to do everything I showed you.
How would you integrate it into your organization? I.e., normally you have middleware that facilitates the integration. I'm talking like something like MQ series or whatever within an organization. Would you then have to have apps here that connect to that cloud app?
You can use APIs actually. There's an API service that is available on Bluemix. You need to form the SOAP services or REST services. Through that, you can communicate to your systems.
So if you look here, this is the catalog of services on Bluemix. The ones that we showed you were the boilerplates, right? So you, instead of using a boilerplate, you could go in and select runtimes, Watson APIs. You could go in and select mobile, DevOps, web and application. And as Suresh was pointing out, there's a whole bunch of integration services that you can also access here. You'll use these integration services and deploy them with your application. Now, the integration can either be done inside of Bluemix, or you can also talk. So, for example, if I wanted to put my database on, not on Bluemix, but I wanted to put my app on Bluemix and talk to a database outside of Bluemix, I can do that. If I wanted to put a database in Bluemix and the app outside, I can do that. So, any of those combinations are possible. And when I look at any one of these services, then you know, the cool thing about these services is that any one of these services, it's really easy to get started. So if I click on this text-to-speech one, it'll give me a description of what the service is. It'll give me the price of the service. So it'll say, you know, this is what text-to-speech does. This is how much it's going to cost. You pick a plan, it's going to be like 2 cents for every 1,000 characters. And it'll tell you who the author is. You can view documentation. So the idea of a developer being productive really quickly, again, we come back to there's this crap house full of services that I can that I can access. So you've got access to all these Watson APIs that you want to play with, that you want to see that you can use. You can go in and start using them on Bluemix.
Can I see the blockchain one that was there? The new ones?
It was only recently on 29th April it has come.
Yeah, there is.
Is it still in experimental?
I saw it above
It's in the
integration.
experimental services.
It was above integration. I saw it.
It's in the experimental services.
The section above integration. There we go. Network blockchain. First.
Yeah, it says IBM beta at the bottom, so it means it's still in experimental. So we don't offer any service level agreement around those while they're still in experimental, but you can try them out.
But it's available for developers to try.
Yeah, right now.
Yes, familiar with blockchains.
So all these new
good
cool
point.
technologies that you really thought you wanted to get started on, you can get started on Bluemix very quickly. And the cool thing is we've got tutorials, we've got samples, we've got other people that have written tutorials and samples that you can get.
There is another service called Mobile App Builder. You just need to drag and drop. So if you want to demo any any apps, so you can just drag and drop, and there are some templates available, and it will allow you to download the APK file. For iPhone, provide the certificates and provisional files, and it will give you the APK.
Cool. And that's just the UI.
Yes, that's it.
So instead of like you having
Stuff,
to
yeah.
go and build a mobile application from scratch, it looks at all the various templates it's got. It's really cool. Let me just show you two other sample applications that you can use to wow your friends. So if you go down on this Bluemix tab, you'll see there's a whole lot of other things that you can learn about using Bluemix for cognitive solutions or IoT solutions. But if you click on the IoT solutions tab, it'll bring out again how IoT works, and so it'll tell you about Watson and Internet of Things, the things you were asking about. There's an example of a powerboat company that used the Internet of Things to work out which way the boat was, and being able to adjust the boat. There's some examples there, but it also gives you an architecture diagram as to how everything fits together. So you've got your device, it sends all of the information from your device using MQTT or HTTP. Then you've got the Watson IoT platform, and then you've got the REST APIs that you can access from Bluemix on this. So it'll tell you how much it costs, the data, the storage. You can have a pricing tool, and then you can also go and play with it. And this is a really cool play demo that you can go and access. And it tells you about all the different devices. So I can pick a device, whether I've got a smartphone or Texas Instrument sensor tag or an ARM embedded controller. So in this case, it's most likely that we've got lots of smartphones in the room. And anyone want to give me a name again? One person's phone that you're going to use? Let's use an MTN and not an IBM. Jackie. So we'll call it Jackie's. Jackie's mobile.
With the Y and the
Y. Then Jackie's mobile. I'll give them my email address. Usually there's a lady in the room, then I'll ask her. Just kidding. So if you put in this URL on your code, https:// just one person will put it in, otherwise you might get more data than you need.
QR code checking.
just scan the QR.
So what it's going to do now is that via HTTP, it's going to send all of the information from the phone's gyroscope and the phone's accelerometer, and we're going to track this phone on the screen real time.
Might need to go closer.
And once we've, and as we've set thresholds on the code, on the phone.
Wait, you're scanning the QR.
Oh, sorry.
These iPhones. Is it iPhone? Closer to here. I think that square must be. Yeah.
Yes. Is it loading? Yeah. Okay, so while it's loading the code, so we can set thresholds to say if the phone drops between, or phone goes too fast up or down, and it'll send out an alert or it'll do something like that. So hopefully, as soon as he connects, we'll start collecting data from his phone. That'll be sent up in the same way that that virtual temperature sensor demo that we did earlier, right? Okay. So as you move your phone around,
Oh wow.
fast.
Throw it in check.
So now shake your phone really fast. So you can see it says acceleration exceeded the limit. You can set thresholds. So we can change the rules. So let's see how fast can you go. Let's go to 3
Acceleration exceeds.
You can get somebody to break their phone when you just go. Let's see if you can go to 100 milliseconds. Like there was this police officer in the US in a small town. He's a friend of mine. He left doing policing and he did a degree in computer science and then he joined IBM. So there was this mayor's son in the town who he would drive fast and always get tickets. And believe it or not, even in the US, because it's the mayor's son, you don't give him the ticket. So what these police officers used to do is they used to stand there with a radar gun, and this kid used to drive past, and then he used to look at them and they said, it's not that fast. The radar only says 70 miles per hour. He's probably doing 100, but they were turning it down. And this guy would go fast and fast until one day he went too fast and he wrecked his father's car. Because they kept telling him that he was going slower than he really was. But here's again an example of an app, and this app again, all the code is there for you to use. You would just go in, find the sample app, deploy the code, get into Git, and be able to use the code. So have I convinced you that developing with Bluemix is going to be quicker? You should be doing the demo. So let's get back. I'm not going to belabor the presentation. I just want to make sure that if there's any questions that you have about the presentation, then we can just talk about anything else that we talked about two-speed development and the way that people want to do development. We've done a lot of hackathons with Bluemix because hackathons allow you to ideate very quickly and have lots of energy at in a short space of time generate ideas. So one of the hackathons we did was with Citibank, and we did like a worldwide hackathon with them because they wanted to do a financial services hackathon, try to get ideas from all over the world. It's actually a cheap way for enterprises to harvest ideas from innovators that are willing to give them away. Now, Bluemix gives you that full breadth of things. It's the cloud platform that allows you to do development, work with other people on the cloud. It allows you to be able to manage your code, deploy your code. And we're seeing a big difference between the way we use Bluemix versus the way cloud was traditionally used. If you look at traditional cloud deployments, when people started using cloud, especially the Americans and Western Europeans, they used cloud because they had a data center, and the data center cost them, let's say, 10 million rand to deploy. Now, when they use cloud, sometimes they could buy virtual infrastructure much cheaper. So they use cloud because of cost efficiencies, right? What we found with mostly the Asians, the Indians, and the South Africans, and the Africans in general, is we tend to use cloud less for that reason. We use it because it allows us to be able to scale really quickly and innovate really quickly. We have less expertise. So cloud allows us to get over that expertise hump. So if you want to deploy an app in Kenya, or you want to deploy another version of my app in Nigeria or in any other country, you can do it really quickly. Within a matter of minutes, I can deploy an application, right? And I don't need that level of expertise to have somebody in the country go and install a server, set it up, set up the network infrastructure, do all the other things. It's minutes now to be able to deploy a new app in the country versus days and hours and months. So I've got the rest of the presentation. We can make it available to you in PDF, unless you want to go through all the detail about this.
Is anybody interested in building an app? 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 Is anyb
I'm sure they'll give it a try.
Even can you offer them
I need a trial personal. I'm gonna.
so we're gonna sign everybody up now.
So you just go to Bluemix.net and it'll give you sign up for a 30-day trial. You'll put in your email address. It'll send you an email to confirm that really is your email address. You'll go back in, put in with your password, and then you'll have access for 30 days. And beyond the 30 days, you've got, like I said, 365 gigabyte hours of Bluemix access. And let me just explain this concept of gigabyte hours. So if I go back to the presentation.
I think you have an enterprise account.
Oh, we'd love to sign you up. We can do that today, right?
Yeah, please
Really check that.
So we give you a quote now. 6 months.
If I go back to my dashboard and I look at my application, it'll tell me So let's go to the Cloud Foundry apps. And let's look at that Morpheus app that we created. Now, if you look at that app, it's one instance of that app running in 512 megabytes of memory. Now, I can decrease the amount of memory that I'm allocating to the app, or I can increase the amount of memory. I can decrease or increase the number of instances, and I can save it immediately. The application is scaled. If I want to add services or APIs to the application, I can do that by just clicking on these buttons. And if I want to see how much the app costs, I can click on this button. So if I'm an entrepreneur, I want to build an app, and then I'm going to sell it to somebody. I can click on this, and it'll give me a spreadsheet as to exactly how much this app costs. Right, so it'll tell me this is my monthly charge. And I can go and now bill my customer for that monthly charge. In this case, because I'm on an IBM demo account, it's not costing me anything. But I can go and increase the number of instances. So you can see the cloud and database costs you $1 or the first 20 gigabytes is free. Right? Beyond the 20 gigabytes, you pay $1 per gigabyte. And then there's all the API calls that you can make. Now, you guys usually think of IBM being enterprise and be expensive, and probably everyone's cheaper. But when it comes to Bluemix and software as a service and all these cloud services, we are very, very competitive. Right, we're very, very competitive. I don't think, in many cases, you won't find pricing like this. And then for enterprise accounts, obviously, there's a different charge model. If you do Bluemix local, all of the services are installed locally in your data center, and you pay a fixed monthly charge for Bluemix in your data center, and we maintain that instance of Bluemix. So we'll make sure all the patches are in there and all the security and all the other stuff. There's lots of other stuff that you can do in the dashboard with the applications. Yes. You're talking about tracking monitoring the application.
Right. As in the past.
But that's in GitHub. Yeah. From within the DevelopWorks option, you can go and assign tasks to people so they can complete the task. So you have a full agile environment in your DevelopWorks environment. Another thing you can do, because the app is on the cloud, you also want to know about uptime, how many people are using it. So you get we have a service that allows you to do that. That's free. You assign it to your application, it tells you how many people are using your app and so on. So we've got like some of the, like we said, some of the Watson APIs are available with Bluemix. You can look at all the Watson APIs and services on Bluemix. So there's like the language APIs and the natural language. And there's a cool one. So there's one API that allows you to take a text of somebody's speech, and it'll tell you what type of person that is. Does anyone want to try that? Should we try that with some?
We have to try it.
Okay, so which politician or which celebrity should we?
Zuma.
Zuma, everyone's a good.
No, we said celebrity or politician.
Oh, so,
Trump.
We said celebrity or politician.
also there, yeah. Tragedy. What do you finding that? Say for example, I've got my application up and running. I know it's got Node.js on it in the background. If I decide to move my code somewhere else, is that possible? It's possible to export my Node.
You want it to locally.
Right?
You want to run it locally.
Yeah, run it locally.
Yeah, you can actually do for Eclipse. There is a plugins available. You just need to import it and then you can link it directly with your GitHub or any other repository that you want. And from there you can code and check in directly to your.
Oh, it's the Git stuff. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so you just that's how you fetch your actual application. Git. Okay.
So we're gonna take. So just to Shreyas's point, Bluemix doesn't tie you into us. We love to do that. We always love a captive customer, but Bluemix does. Your code is completely independent of the platform, so you can export and take your code out whenever you want to. Here's a part of Donald Trump's speech. I'm just going to take a piece of it. We're going to go to the personality insights. I'm going to try the service. So we're going to go to body of text instead of looking at this. So we're going to put our own text in there. We're going to insert the text. I'll leave all the applause and stuff in there because it shouldn't. And then we'll analyze it.
Oh, that's Arabic and Japanese.
So it says, Mr. Trump is not indirect. You are empathetic.
I know.
Whoa.
Your choices are driven by desire for well-being. You are relatively unconcerned with the decision. You care more about making your own path and following what others have done. Consider independence a guide to life. It's just a part of his speech. Probably says a little bit about him, but not enough about the character. But don't go and take your wife's emails and put it in here. Yeah? It's not a good idea. There's lots of other cool ones. Personality insights. I think there's one where you can analyze your Twitter feed and see, which personality are you most similar to. So does anyone analyze and see which personality are they closest to? Somebody. Oh, this one's going to make you authorize the app.
Use yours.
I'm a gracious machine. But guys, I think overall the idea is Bluemix is an amazing new technology. It offers you the ability to do some cool stuff. I think we've gotten beyond the idea of religious vendor, going after one vendor. Every vendor has value. What Bluemix does is bring all of this together. We work together with Google or Microsoft and Amazon and stuff. So none of these things work in isolation. But if what you're looking for is what we call our platform, where you're building web apps, or you're building mobile apps, or you need to do this quickly, or you want to innovate fast, this is going to give you an edge. Because in addition to a platform that does everything really quickly, you've seen a whole slew of services that's going to allow you to do things very, very quickly.
6 minutes. 6 minutes. Sorry. If I needed to analyze a Twitter account, so perhaps an MTN Twitter account where people can put complaints or compliments or whatever on there, can you do something on Bluemix to analyze the Twitter data?
On what?
No, we have a Twitter.
It's already there.
You can do it.
There's a sample application on Bluemix that will analyze MTN's Twitter feed, and every time there's negative sentiment or positive sentiment, it will indicate that. And you can say if sentiment is getting too negative, let us know. So then you can take take some corrective action against it.
But is that in line with our Twitter partnership?
Yeah, so the Twitter partnership with IBM is that, instead of you having to go through the Twitter feed itself, now you can go through the backend and get access to code historical data, but the files version of it, not the regular customer version of it. So we're forming, if you look at IBM's strategy, right, we're forming partnerships with all of these companies because partnerships is the way to go. We're never going to become Twitter. We're never going to become any of those. So we've got to form partnerships to be able to access that data so that you can use that data in your apps, in your enterprise to bring value. Because it's not just going to be your systems of record that's going to give you value. You're going to have to combine that with your the Twitter feeds and all the other data that's coming from outside.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any more questions from the floor? Let's see if anybody asked anything online.
So everybody's welcome to register.
I want to put a challenge out on this platform for an AI bot on Telegram. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, AI bot on Telegram that's running on this. Okay, how's that for challenge?
So Yusuf, just on the 30 days, I think if so you can look at the 30 days and register and all that. You can create the organization. So Suresh will help you create the organization, and you can register onto the organization. If it goes beyond the 30 days, let's have a chat. We can try to extend it
sure.
for maybe another 30 days.
Okay, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Speaking of hackathons, I think this kind of demo introduced in this platform is I can see why it's perfect for hackathons. I don't know, some of you might know, but we put up our hand as MTN South Africa to be part of an international hackathon happening in October this year. It's called TADHack, TADHACK. We'll be hosting it here at MTN, probably in phase 2. And we're going to be working with our partners to bring different development environments, SDKs. It's going to be a weekend event, so probably Saturday, Sunday, where we're inviting any developers out there to come in, free access, get access to people with technical knowledge on these platforms, get a bit of tutoring. Yeah, that's their hack up there. You can see they have events all over the world throughout the year, but this particular one is a global event where it happens in, I think, 24 countries at the same time. And we stream everything on Google Hangouts to the other ones that are happening. So the MTN, South Africa, Nigeria, and I think it was Zambia are considering hosting this. We've already made up our minds that we want to do it. And we're just working with our partners to decide who we're taking with on this. Yeah, so get you guys ideas ready. Staff are also welcome to enter. They give a $1,000 prize, get hand to the winner. And we'll also be giving our own prizes for different categories. With that, thank you very much. It was really insightful. I think you are around on the 3rd floor in the building. So if anybody else has questions on the platform, or you think we have guy in the building that can assist.
We're going to be monitoring who's going to be registering. Right? So expecting some take on this. Your feedback, I think within itself, we can feedback on to you, Yusuf.
So this is broadcast to everybody, Cape Town, the offices, people are watching at the desk.
Okay.
They might be afterwards, I'll just forward it to you as well.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.